Oh, all I want is you, Jesus. All I want is you. Oh, and you are the refuge I run to. You are the fire that leads me through the night. I'll follow you anywhere. There's a million reasons to trust you. Nothing to fear, for you are by my side. I'll follow you anywhere. Oh Jesus, you came to my rescue and took my place upon the cross. You redeemed what I had lost. My whole world revolving around you. You're the center of my life. You're the treasure, you're the prize. Oh, all I want is you, Jesus. All I want is you. Oh, and you are the refuge I run to. You are the fire that leads me through the night, and I'll follow you anywhere. There's a million reasons to trust you. Nothing to fear, for you are by my side. I'll follow you anywhere. Yes, I'll follow you anywhere. I'll follow you anywhere. Wherever you lead me, whatever it costs me. All I want is you, Jesus. All I want is you. Wherever you lead me, whatever it costs me. Oh, all I want is you, Jesus. All I want is you. Wherever you lead me, whatever it costs me. Oh, all I want is you, Jesus. All I want is you. Oh, you are the refuge I run to. You are the fire that leads me through the night, and I'll follow you anywhere. There's a million reasons to trust you. Nothing to fear, for you are by my side. I'll follow you anywhere. Yes, I'll follow you anywhere. I'll follow you anywhere. I'll follow you anywhere.
It's so good getting to worship together and to recenter our hearts and our mind on who God is. My name is Jim Sheldon. I'm one of the pastors on staff here at Mission, and so excited that we are worshiping together today. Hey, real quick, if you're new to Mission, whether that's today you're checking it out for the first time, or you've been around the last couple of weeks and haven't done this yet, make sure to let us know that you're new around here. In fact, go ahead and click the New Here link that we're going to drop in the comment section, and we're going to send a free gift to you. It's a Mission Church coffee mug. There's no strings attached. We really do just want to say thanks for checking Mission out. The second thing is I want to make sure that you download the Mission Church app. Whether you're new or been around Mission for a long time, the app is where you can go to stay connected and informed throughout the week. You'll be able to watch or listen to past messages. You can fill out a prayer request anytime during the week right in the app, and our team would be honored to pray for you. You can also click the 411 button, and right now, that's where you're going to want to make sure to check that out every week, because there's so many things happening around Mission these days. The 411 button is where you're going to know all the things that are happening and how you can participate. In fact, there's a women's event called Spark that's coming up Monday and Tuesday night this week. Child dedications on Mother's Day. We launched a podcast in association with the series that we're in right now. So many things happening. You can find it all about it all right there in the 411 button on the app. But two things that I want to highlight happening right now around Mission. The first is we are launching some small groups. And during COVID, so many of us got disconnected from people. We ended up finding ourselves not really around people where we were being sharpened, challenged, encouraged, and cared for. And so I want to encourage you to jump into a small group. They're kicking off on Tuesday, April 27th, and they're going to be tracking along. Like, we're in the series called Relationship Goals, awesome series. So we're going to be doing groups called Relationship Goals Groups. And regardless of your relationship status, I think we can all agree relationships are just tough. If you don't have one, they're tough to find. And if you have one, it's kind of tough to keep. But with the right people and right information, we got a shot at figuring this thing out. And so regardless of your relationship status, we have something just for you. In fact, if you're preparing to get married or are married, we have groups that you can get into with couples where you're going to be doing an assessment that will give you a personalized view into your relationship. And then you're going to be working through together with these other couples all about your personality, communication styles, conflict styles, money management, intimacy, some really good content about your relationship. And you'll be sharpening, encouraging one another. So make sure you sign up for that. If you're single or dating, we have groups for you as well. You'll be jumping in with some men or women and taking on some curriculum. It's 6 weeks long where we'll be kind of unpacking what it looks like to honor God in every stage of our relationship journey, from singleness to dating to engagement to marriage. So don't miss either one of these group options kicking off. They're all on campus on Tuesday nights. You can get all the information on our website, missionventura.com/groups, or you guessed it, in the app. We'll drop a link in the comment section as well. The second thing I want to mention is we've been in the middle of this major initiative called Feed 805. We kicked it off on Easter Sunday, and we've been sharing every week how we are trying to solve one of the biggest needs in our county right now, and that is the need for food. Food insecurity affects 1 in 6 people in our county, and so together we are trying to feed the 805. Food Share is an amazing organization. They've been serving our community for a long time, but during COVID, they saw like a decrease in the gifts that they were receiving and the food that they were receiving, while at the same time the need was increasing. And we heard about that. We went, man, church, we can solve this. So we are trying to collect over 60,000 bags of food to resource Food Share. And some really cool things are happening. In fact, over 60 businesses all around Ventura County are drop-off locations, and you can see all this on the website. So many stories of organizations, Girl Scouts, others that are going, man, we've been looking for a way to give back in our community, and this has been the sweetest and easiest way to do that. So right now, today, we're going to drop a link and you can buy food and have it shipped here. You can sponsor a bag. You can come to Mission and you can pick up bags to share with your friends. Like, find other people to join you on this journey of feeding the 805. And then coming up on Saturday, we have 7 grocery stores in our community that are actually going to be doing drives at those grocery stores. That day, we have volunteers there, and we're going to be encouraging people as they're in there shopping to get food and to donate it right there on the spot. And we're going to be sharing all about that on social media. So we'll drop a link in the chat. You can follow Mission on Facebook and Instagram, and we'll be posting updates all throughout the week. So make sure you're staying tuned for that. Well, right now, we're going to receive an offering. This is something we do every week here at Mission. It's one of the ways that we kind of partner together on Mission. Like, Mission is a generous church because of the people of Mission who are generous. In fact, that's why we can do things like Feed 805. It's why we can come along families and individuals every week with Give One and offer real practical assistance. In fact, this week with Give $1, we were able to come alongside of a family who experienced a bit of a medical emergency, and at the same time experienced like problems with their vehicle and some other things. And so we were able to come alongside and help bridge that gap for them. And so because of your generosity, we're able to say yes quickly when needs pop up. And so grateful for the ways that you give around here, whether that's online or via text or recurring giving. There's lots of ways for you to participate with generosity. Well, today we're continuing in the series called Relationship Goals. Mike Hickerson is going to be teaching. We're so excited you're here. Welcome to Mission.
Well, what is up, Mission Online? My name is Mike Hickerson, and I'm honored to be the lead pastor of Mission Church. Man, I love our church and everything that's going on. Our church exists to help people find and follow Jesus. Honored that Mission's a part of your time this weekend. I know that time is very valuable these days. Love that we can gather this way. If you haven't had a chance to just type in the chat about where you're from, or maybe just say hey, or who you're watching with, just as a way to stay connected in the chat. It's a great tool to do that. Our church, man, we are full of imperfect people. So if you just want to admit that you're imperfect, you can just say like, I'm not perfect. And if you want to say like the person you're with, they're not perfect, in case they're not saying it, you can say that as well. It may cause a fight. Don't cause a fight where you're watching church together, experiencing that. But it's helpful to realize that none of us are perfect, but in Christ, because of what God has done in sending Jesus to the mess, man, he views us as much loved sons and daughters of God. And so when we get the trade of our imperfection with his perfection, and God sees his son's perfection in us, it is great news for us, because that's a great trade for us. And that fact and that hope means there's hope for every single one of us. And so I don't know where anybody's kind of at in life these days, if they're like agree with that or trying to figure that out or cynical about God and Jesus, Bible, and church. But man, it's just helpful to call a truce for an hour as we kind of go, okay, man, if it's true that God is who he says he is and wants to do everything that he promised to do, and he sent his son Jesus into the mess, that has some big ramifications for our life. And so let's lean into that together. In fact, I just want a couple announcements for our church, some like things that are happening I'm pumped for. So May 2nd is a big day. So May 2nd, get ready. Drum roll almost. May 2nd, we are having Mission Kids back at all services. Woo! Can we just say hallelujah, praise hands, whatever you want to put in the chat? That's amazing. Parents with kids and young families, man, I know, man, it's been a crazy year. I can't even imagine. My kids are older and trying to figure that out. I can't imagine when they were younger and navigating all that you've had to navigate. So proud of you. So proud of our Mission Kids team for the way that they partnered with people in our church and families in our church to help engage with kids this season. But I cannot wait on May 2nd to have full kids experiences back at all services. Be looking for more information from that. I'm pumped about it. If you want to volunteer, we would totally allow that. We're going to need some volunteers to jump back into the mix. So there'll be a link down below as well. And when I say at all services, I want to let you know of something else that's kind of interesting around Mission. We change service times all the time, but we're adding a service because some of the growing numbers of people wanting to engage in-person services. So 9, 10:30, noon, and 6, we'll be meeting in person. Online, we'll stay 9 and 10:30. But maybe just so you know what's happening when we gather in person, is that there's an option on the patio outside, there's an option in the lobby, and there's options in the room. And so we have options in person, so come on back, welcome home. It's going to be fun to gather together that way. If you're looking for a service that's probably the least attended and that would be most comfortable for you, but you'd like to be in person, probably that noon option is going to be your best option to check out. But man, I am so pumped for May 2nd. So May 2nd, new service times, 9, 10:30, noon, and 6 in person. And then all Mission Kids at all services. I cannot wait. It's going to be amazing. We've been in this series where we kind of, after Easter, we're like, okay, let's get some relationship goals in play for us. Like, we're all in relationships. We have different kinds of relationships. You know, there's friends, there's teammates, there's school, there's dating, there's wannabe dating, there's married and want to be married and not want to be married and was married and all kinds of in between. You don't have to say which one you are, but there's goals that we want to have because God designed us for a relationship. So what kind of relationships does he want for us? And so last week we kicked off with week 1, and Jody kicked it off and like, you know what? One of the relationship goals that we want to have together is that we want to do relationships God's way. Like, we've done it our way for a long time. We've done friendships or dating or marriage or whatever. We've done things our way for a while, and it's got us where we've gotten, and not all of us like where we've gotten. So what if we try to say, let's put a goal for ourselves. Let's put a goal for our friendships. Let's put a goal for when we're on a team together. Let's put a goal for our working relationships, for our dating relationships, for our married relationships, for our family relationships. Let's put a goal that we would do this God's way. Like, we're in this together to do it God's way. And what Jody walked us through is like, we want to build on that, the building blocks of knowledge and knowing what God's way is and understanding what God's way is. And wisdom is like knowing what's right and wrong and best and choosing best every time, even when it's difficult. We want to have that wisdom in us in our relationships because that's God's way. And we want to have that obedience in us because that's how we do relationships, because that's God's way. He wants best for us. And we're learning that, and we're not all wired to want to like surrender to that. And so what we're going to walk through today is like, you know what another relationship goal would be? You first. In our relationship, you get to go first. And so next week we're going to walk through like a relationship goal to have fun, and then we're going to talk about fighting right, And then we're going to talk about walker to walker, that season of what it likes to have like long-term relationships that last for the long haul and in God's way in healthy ways. So we're pumped about that. I'm so pumped about it. I love talking about this stuff because I think, man, if we could get this right, our world will be better, our soul would be better, our families would be better, our future families would be better, our churches would be better, our job places would be better, our schools would be better, our teams would be better. If we can get great at relationships God's way, man, our whole world would be better, and I want us to be better for it. And so one of the things that we're going to talk about today is that we're going to say you first. In our relationships, we're going to fight. We're going to fight to say, you know what? You first. And what we mean by that, and when we say you first, in our relationship, you're the priority. In our friendship, I want us to be the kind of people that look at our friends and say, in this relationship, you're the priority. In our teams that we're on, in this team, no matter what our roles are, no matter what our positions are, no matter what's going on, in this team, in our relationship on this team, I want to be the kind of person that puts you as the priority. That's difficult. Now, let's even make it more difficult. In this dating relationship, in this marriage that we're in, Jody, you're the priority. And, everything in us wants to go like, well, that's great that they just said that to me. I cannot wait for them to tell me I've been wanting to be the priority in this relationship for a long time. No. If you're thinking about they should say it to you, we're in the wrong conversation. What we're going after today, we want to be the kind of people that are in our relationships all across the board that say, in this relationship, you are the priority. Meaning, how can I leverage everything that I am, what I have access to? How can I leverage all that God has given me for the benefit of you? Specifically, when I'm thinking through marriage and people that are getting ready to get married, premarital, one of the things I say is like your job description, our job descriptions are to wake up every single day and go, how can I help that other person thrive? The person I'm in relationship with, how can I help them thrive spiritually? Because I want to help them thrive spiritually. I want to leverage everything that I am so that they can thrive spiritually. How do I help them thrive emotionally? How do I help them thrive physically, relationally? How can I spend my life for them so that I can make sure that they know that they are first in this relationship? And if two people are competing with each other about trying to put each other first and helping each other thrive, that is a great relationship goal. Man, that's what we're going at. Kids, students, can you imagine? Your parents may have a heart attack in the moment if you walked up to them and said, hey, I just want you to know you've done so much for me, but in this relationship, I want to help you guys however I can because you've been so good to me. So anything that I can do to help you, literally, their jaw will be on the floor. They won't know what to do. And if you want bonus points for this, and I know that you want bonus points for this, do that when their friends are around, when their adult friends are around. Just walk up to them and say, hey, you guys have done so much for me. In this relationship, I want you to know that you're the most important. What can I do to serve you and serve our family? They will lose their ever-loving mind. I mean, they'll be like, are you okay? They'll check for a temperature and all that stuff. Parents, if you're always instructing and always correcting and you're always powering up on your kids, can you imagine what it would do to your parent-child relationship if you went to them and your kids felt, not just knew that you said it, but felt that in this relationship, I'm going to leverage everything I am because I think that you are the priority in this relationship. You don't kiss the ring, you don't work for me. In this relationship, you are the priority. Because I'm going to leverage everything that I can because you come first. You first in this. Ladies, can you imagine going to your fella and going like, all right, in this relationship, you're the priority. And they're like, oh, am I in trouble? This is a game, I'm in trouble. Like, what do you, no, you're like, no, how can I help you go further, faster? How can I help you succeed? What do you need from me at work? Or what do you need from me relationally? What do you need from me spiritually? In this relationship, you're the priority. They would lose their mind because that's probably not happened to them very much. Or guys, can you imagine what's going to happen in your work life, in your home life, in your friendships? If you go up to that relationship and you go up to your wife and you say, you know what? I want you to know that you are the priority in this relationship. I am not. What can I do to help you thrive emotionally, relationally, physically, spiritually? I want you to know that I want to be the catalyst for that in your life because I want you to know that you go first. You are first in this relationship. Can you imagine how healthy our homes would be, how healthy our teams would be, how healthy our schools would be, how healthy our communities would be, like if everyone was trying to put the other first. I know, it's crazy. Imagine what would it look like. It would be unbelievable if friends did that for each other every time. You know what? In this friendship, there's no power dynamics at play. We're just for each other, and I want you to know that whatever you need, you're the priority in this friendship. There's a churchy word for this kind of like relationship goal that when you hear it, you're going to be like, oh, I hate that word. You know, you're going to think it's a curse word. You're going to think it's an S word that you're not supposed to say, and then you sure don't want to live out. But what this means, this you first priority, biblically in the Bible, from God's word, if we would just live this out, it would be transformative for all of us. It goes like this. This is the job description for all of us in relationships, in every relationship. This is the job description. You ready? Submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. Oh, I hate that word. It's like a grate on you S word. It conjures up some negative feelings. You know, it's an outdated concept. We got this eye roll that comes along with it. It makes us immediately go like, but you don't know. Like, what about my rights? What about me? What about having self-boundaries? If we're going to really live out the love that Jesus called us to, if we're going to really live out the relationships that Jesus called us to, if we're going to really live it out the way Jesus lived it out, then we've got to get good at this relationship goal, to submit to one another. Oh my, they're not worth it. You don't know what he did. You don't know what she's done. You don't know what happened 10 years ago. You don't know about the backstabbing on the team that you did. You don't know about the office politics that are going on. Like, I can't submit to them. I can't say that they're the priority in the relationship because they're not worth it. And God is going, I didn't say to do it because they're worth it. I said to do it one another out of our, reverence for Christ or for Jesus. Christ followers. If you're not a Christ follower, you can call us on this one as Christians that don't do this great. If we're Christ followers, this isn't an option for us. Then in our relationships, we say you first in all of them. Not because they're worth it, but because of our reverence for Jesus, who when he looked at us, prioritized us in the relationship and said, I will leverage everything that I am, all my power, all my influence, all my identity, all my everything, so that you can win and be the priority. That's our call. That's what we go. I mean, I know it conjures up all that stuff, but that's what we're about. And this does not come naturally to any of us. So if you're going like, I don't know how to do that, join the club. I'm terrible at this. I mess up on this on a daily, weekly basis. I messed up today. I messed up this week. But I don't want to be, because I want to set the goal for my life to make sure that I want to put other people first in my life. My friendships, my working relationships, my family, my marriage, all of that. I want other people, I want to be the kind of man that puts other people first, because that's what Jesus has called us to. That's why Jesus says, he said one time, man, if you want to follow me, like you want a really great life, you want to follow me, you want a great home, you want great relationships, I want a life of legacy to be proud of after you're gone, you want a great life, you know what you're going to have to do? Die to yourself. Die to powering up and being at the center of your life. You're going to have to intentionally deny that urge to push to the front or to push to the middle of everything or to be the most important person in the room. You're going to have to intentionally get away from it. You can't power up on other people. You can't shove others' needs to the side and only focus on your needs. We can't go around thinking that we're all that. We have to think about and intentionally put into practice. This is something that we don't just naturally gravitate towards. We have to fight every day to say, you know what, my relationship goals for my life is to say, you know what, you first. And it is not a natural thing to do. It's very difficult. But could you imagine how much better our lives would be if relationally we were fighting to put each other first all the time for the right reasons? I love what this Richard Foster quote, it's one of my favorite quotes around submission, maybe you've heard it, is that submission is the ability to lay down the terrible burden of always needing to get our own way. I mean, when I fight to say, you know what, that you first in this relationship, you are the priority, it relieves me of the terrible burden of always having to manipulate and be in control so that I can get what I want. And that's not natural, but it relieves us of the burden of always needing to get our own way. It actually, when I live this out, it makes me a better leader. When I live this out, it makes me a more confident follower. When I live this out in my home, it makes me a more connected and invested father and husband. When it makes me a more consistent dad, it makes me a better friend, a more engaged boss. It frees me up to actually serve people without keeping score, which fills my heart and fills my soul with purpose and joy that only comes from living that way. It thinks more about giving and less about receiving and getting. It sweeps away all the junk like envy and greed. I can find contentment and gratitude because I'm not trying to get everything out of the relationship. I'm trying to put you first and make sure that you're thriving in the relationship all across the board. Jesus was right. And I know you probably think I'm biased on that, and I am, but Jesus was right. If we want to find our life, we lose it. And we have to lay down the burden of always needing to get everything our way in our relationships. And we live as someone who understands, you know what, the best possible way to do relationships, the best possible way to live? You first. In this relationship, you're the priority. And now I know you want to fight, and this isn't blind submission. It doesn't mean that it's okay for someone to cross moral boundaries or ethical boundaries and you just have to submit to it. I don't have the time to get into the unhealthy views of over-submitting it, because most of our world doesn't struggle with that. We struggle with laying down the terrible burden of always needing to get our own way. Colossians 3:18-19, this is a fun one, often misquoted by guys. Wives, submit yourselves to your husbands. Oh, they're like, yes. That's the only verse in the Bible that I know, babe. I know that one. I don't know anything else, but I know that one. As fitting in the Lord. Husbands, love your wives and do not be harsh with them. The thing that we miss in this part right here, when we want to memorize as husbands, we want to memorize wives, submit yourselves to your husbands, is that we forget that the job description has always been played out. You submit to one another out of reverence for Christ already. So he's just calling us back to this. And so love your wives. And you're like, well, I'm not called to submit, Mike. I'm a husband. And it doesn't say I'm supposed to submit. Well, he's already told us all to submit. He said you also have to love your wives. And so let me describe what love your wives looks like in the next verse in Ephesians. It says it this way. For husbands, this means love your wives. Just as Christ, Jesus, loved the church and he gave up his life for her. So you're right. You know what? If you don't think that you need to submit, that's fine, because your wife is supposed to submit. That's great, awesome. But you're clearly called to love as Christ loved the church. And so you don't have to submit, you just have to give up your life for your wife. No, we're all called to this, where we say, you first. In this relationship, you are the priority. I'm going to act if that person is more important than I am. I'm going to act as if that person, and I'm going to treat them as if they're more valuable than me. And that's why he goes right along into it. And he even goes into children. Children, he goes along and says this, obey your parents in everything, for this pleases the Lord. It's not going to please kids all the time. It's not going to please you all the time to obey your parents. I know. I was a kid and I have kids. And I'm an imperfect parent and I was an imperfect kid. But man, if we would go after this, if we would be the kind of parents that said you first in this relationship, and our kids knew that we had the best interest in mind, and so it was easy for them to obey even when they didn't want to, because they knew that they trusted us, because they could put us first in that. Parents, you will have an unbelievable relationship with your parents in the future, and you'll be a great parent once you understand this. Fathers, do not embitter your children, or they will become discouraged. Not in life, because they're going to go figure out their own thing if they're bitter with you. They're going to get discouraged in faith, in who God is, because they see you trying to represent like you're this Christian dude, but at home, you're not living out any of the principles that God called us to live out as fathers and husbands. So they're going to get discouraged because we're not smoking what we're selling. So they're going to walk away and do their own thing. Man, this is a challenge for me. Man, to put others first. And I know as a pastor it should come easy, but it's just a challenge for me. And so maybe I thought it'd be helpful if we could just walk through some of the stuff that I'm learning about this. About putting other people first, about saying in this relationship, you are the priority. The thing that I think first and foremost is that forces me to admit that it is not about me. No, this is so basic. I know. You should be very impressed that this is what I'm learning and what I'm working through. But I think we all have this tendency to think that the world revolves around us. and that we are at the center and people should be kissing the ring and they should be serving me and doing what I need. And we don't like talk about that at parties, but we feel that on the inside and we feel like violated a little bit on the inside. Everyone wants to act like they're a servant until somebody treats them like they are a servant, right? Because we think somehow the world probably does revolve around me. And we can blame it on Copernicus if we want to. In 1543, he had the audacity to look at the stars and go, I don't think that we're the center of the universe. And then they kicked him out of education, they kicked him out of college, they kicked him out of the church, they threw him in jail because he had the audacity to say that the earth wasn't the center, or that we weren't the center. And he looked at the sun and he's like, I think that's the center of what everything's rotating around right here. And what Copernicus did for like the solar system, God does for our souls. And he says, I'm going to point at the center. And when he points at the center, when God points at the center, I am nowhere in line. He's not looking at me. He's not pointing at me. He's not kind of giving me side eyes like, I really think you are the center. I'm not the center of anything. When he points at his son, that is the center. And that's what relationships look like. And that's what we go after together. That's what we model after each other. And he always put people first. So why can't I in my relationships go, you know what I need to learn if I'm going to put you first? It is not about me. Maybe even could type that in the chat because it's a helpful reminder for me. It is not about me. Because I get so wrapped up in thinking that it is about me or depends on me. But when God looks at the center of the universe, he's not even gazing my direction at all. Second thing that I'm learning about putting other people first and you first is that it leads to freedom. And that freedom where we're getting like consumed with getting everything our way and getting it when we want it, how we want it, and the speed and the manner in which we want it, and in our friendships and our relationships and our teams and our work relationships and our marriages and our dating relationships, all that kind of stuff. It's like it frees us up to actually be able to give and not be worried about getting. And when people in marriages and relationships are always consumed about trying to get the most out of it for themselves that they can get, that is not the kind of relationships that anyone wants to be in. Who wouldn't want to be in a friendship with somebody that thinks that I'm the priority in the relationship? Who wouldn't want to be in a dating relationship that, man, they always just put me first? Like, who wouldn't want a thriving marriage with somebody that's like, man, it's not like, it's so healthy because I feel like we're fighting of how we're going to put each other first and meet each other's needs relationally and physically and emotionally and spiritually all the time. Like, those are the kind of relationship goals that we want. And we're free to do that when we're not concerned about getting all the time. It also helps me, what I'm learning is that it moves me from here I am to there you are. I know we don't say this, but some of us, as conquering heroes, walking in from the day, pre-COVID especially, because now we had to all work from home and get on each other's nerves a little bit. But like you walk from home and you're like, a little bit on the inside, we're all kind of like, here I am. I am here to rescue. I'm here to be awesome. I'm here to play. I'm here to do stuff. I've been like working. I've been providing. Like, oh, aren't you so glad that I am here and I'm present? And maybe you should come up and give me a hug. And the dog would come up and give me a hug. We don't have a dog, but if it did, it'd come up and give me a hug. And everybody would tackle me. Oh, great loving husband of mine. Oh, great father of mine. You can imagine that does not go on in my house. But what I'm saying is when I'm realizing that in my relationships, I'm putting you first, I'm not walking in with the expectation that everyone would go, here I am. Hello, conquering hero. But I could walk into all my relationships, into my friendships, into my work relationships, into my dating relationships, into my marriage, into my teammates, all that stuff. I could walk in going, I don't need to say here I am, because I want to be the kind of person that walks in and says, well, there you are. I see you. What do you need? How can I help? Because in this relationship, you're the priority. And you first. And submits me one another to reverence for Christ. So it means that we take the initiative. It means we lay down our needs and serve. What can I do to help? But service just flows out of an attitude of submission where we say you first. Because does it mean that we may have to rearrange our schedule for the other person? Yes. Does it mean we might not need to do things around the house that aren't necessarily our job? Yes. Does it mean we have to hang with the kids so they can do that thing? Yes. Does it mean that we have to do the dishes? No. It does not mean we have to I'm kidding. Yes, it means we have to do the dishes. Does it mean we might do the little things that never get noticed? Yes. But my role, your role is how can I help everyone in my house? How can I leverage everything that I am in every relationship that I have? How can I leverage everything so that they thrive emotionally, spiritually, relationally, and physically today? Because they come first. And then it makes me more like Jesus. When I live a you first life, it makes me more like Jesus. And I've learned so much by just watching how Jesus lived and Philippians 2, 1 through 8 says it this way. So how do I can know that it makes me more like Jesus? That goes Philippians 2, 1, 8. It says, therefore, this is how Jesus lived. Therefore, if you have any encouragement from being united with Christ. I mean, like if being a follower of Christ and being rescued and being restored, if you've been encouraged by that in your life, if it's changed your life, if there's any comfort from his love, if it's like you know who you are as a much loved son or daughter, if any common sharing of the Spirit, if any tenderness and compassion, of like being a Christ follower, if it's wrecked your life in all the good ways and rebuilt it, then make my joy complete by being like-minded, having the same love, and being one in spirit and mind. And here we go. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others, what? Above yourself. You first. Not looking to your own interests, but each of us to the interest of the others. Your attitude and your relationships with one another have the same mindset, your attitude, the same mindset of Christ Jesus, who, being in the very nature God, did not consider equality with God something to be used for his own advantage. So in Jesus' relationship with God, he said, you know what, no, you first. I'm not using my position to leverage anything. Rather, he made himself nothing by taking the very nature of a servant, being made in human likeness, and he came, and being found in appearance as a man, he humbled himself by becoming obedient to death, even death on a cross. And so what we're saying is if you want to go after the relationship goal that God intended for us to be, it's always going to be, if it's out of reverence for Christ, that you're going to submit to one another out of reverence for Christ, and you're going to put the other person first. You want your world to change? You want your life to be changed? You want your relationships to be changed? You want to set a goal for our relational worlds together? You first. I'll put you first. In this relationship, you're the priority. Let me just lay 4 challenges real quick. I think real practical challenges. It helps me not just to hear that and go, okay, that's cool. He's probably right. I mean, Jesus said it. It's probably a better way to live. If I was more humble, it'd probably be better. Well, let me just ask this. In what relationships do I think I'm more important? You may not want to type that out in the chat. But in what relationships? You probably know them. They probably already came to your mind. What relationships am I walking in going, oh man, I kind of think I'm the most important person in this relationship. I expect them to serve me in this relationship. Second, what areas of my relationships do I need to put them first? So friendships, what areas in your friendships do we need to put them first? What areas in our dating relationships do we need to put them first? Marriage relationships, them first. Working relationships, them first. Friendships, them first. Teammate, them first. What areas? I mean, you probably know. God's probably working on your heart and mind right now. What areas in you that you know internally you need to put them first? Third, you got to live with the high mission personally. What I mean by that is sometimes we've used submission as a weapon, that we need other people to submit to us and we power up on that, which is the total opposite view of it. What I challenge all of us is to live with such a high mission for your life. Make the mission of your life so high to help people find and follow Jesus. It's so compelling. The mission and the way you live and the character in which you live and the way that you spend your life, the mission of your life is so clear and high. It is so easy for your friends, teammates, spouse, dating people, all that. It's so easy to be submitted under the mission of it because the mission is so high. I watch guys that use submission as a weapon with women in their life, and they're so mad that people don't submit, but the mission of their life is so stinking low that it's impossible to get under and submit to it. So live with the high mission. Fourth, we got to give each other some grace. This is difficult for all of us to put the other first, because we live in a world that's consumed with me and getting mine and making my life comfortable, and you exist to please and serve me in all forms and fashions. I want this for us. Maybe we could take the challenge and say, you know what, I'm going to do relationship God's way. And that means I'm going to start by saying, you know what, the relationship goal that we have together, you first. In this relationship, you're the priority. Why don't you pray with me? God, you're good and you're great. And thank you for Jesus, the author and the perfecter of our faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross and gave us the example of what it is like to put the other person first. Thank you for being the kind of God that sent the best that you had for the worst of us and the worst in us. We don't deserve it, but man, we're so glad we have it. And may that be the fuel for our lives to be transformed, the fuel for our relationships to do them that way. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. So thought it was appropriate, whoever you nominated to get your communion supplies, now it's probably time and appropriate. When we're thinking about what Jesus did for us, let's receive communion together. And communion is it's nothing magical about it. The night before Jesus was crucified, he was having a last meal with some of his friends, and he took bread and broke it, said, "Take and eat, this is my body broken for you." And then he took a cup of wine. Don't know what liquid you have, but he took a cup of wine and said, "Take and drink, this is my body, or this is my blood poured out for you. When you do this, remember me." So Christians for thousands of years have been partaking in communion, which we say, you know what, I'm so grateful for the life of Jesus, for the death of Jesus, and for the resurrection of Jesus, and what that means to me personally. And so when we take the bread, that's what we do. So let's do that together. Let's just be grateful for the body that was broken for us. And then whatever juice you have, we would say, man, just grateful for the blood that was poured out that makes us clean. What we're going to do, we're going to spend some time kind of with an exclamation point in this service and maybe thinking back some of the ways that we could put people first, but also worshiping together. Much love and peace.
You give life, you are love, you bring light to the darkness, you give hope, you restore every heart that is broken. Great are you, Lord. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. We pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. You give life. You give life. You are love. You bring light to the darkness. You give hope. You restore every heart that is broken. Great are you, Lord. Let's sing that again. Great are you, Lord. Yes, great are you, Lord. And it's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. We pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. We pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. And all the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. All the earth, yes, all the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Come on. surrendering all, surrendering all. Find me here, Lord, as you draw me near. I'm desperate for you, I'm desperate for you. I surrender. Let's make this our prayer. Sing, drench my soul. Drench my soul. As mercy and grace unfold. I hunger and thirst. Lord, I hunger and thirst. With arms stretched wide, I know you hear my cry. Speak to me now. Oh Lord, speak to me now. And I surrender. I surrender. I want to know you more. I want to know you more. And I surrender. I surrender. Yeah. I want to know you more. I want to know you more. Like a rushing wind, Jesus, breathe within. Lord, have your way. Lord, have your way in me. Like a mighty storm, stir within my soul. Lord, have your way. Lord, have your way in me. Like a rushing wind, like a rushing wind. Jesus, breathe within. Lord, have your way. Lord, have your way in me. Like a mighty storm, stir within my soul. Lord, have your way. Lord, have your way in me. Like a rushing wind, Jesus, breathe within. Lord, have your way. Lord, have your way in me. Like a mighty storm, stir within my soul. Lord, have your way. Lord, have your way in me. And have your way. For Lord, have your way. Lord, have your way in me. And I surrender. And I surrender. And I want to know you. I want to know you. Well, sing that prayer. And I surrender. And I surrender. And I want to know you more. I want to know you more.
Such a good reminder this week that the way forward, like the way to experience life, is actually through surrender, through putting God and others first in our lives. I want to encourage you about a couple of things this week. Don't forget, social media is going to be listing the places where you can participate in Feed 805 at grocery stores on Saturday. The app's going to have information in the 411 button about the groups that are kicking off later this month. And then don't forget, Mission Kids is coming back on May 2nd. We'll see you next week as we continue in this series.